What's going on, everyone? Looking at the Korean baseball opening day slate for Draftkings as well as Fanduel. Spent the last couple of hours doing some research on it, so I'm excited to bring this video to you guys. Feel like I have some solid information that will make it easier to build lineup for you guys on the slate on the sport that nobody's really familiar with. So before we get started, I would appreciate if you guys would hit the like on the video and subscribe if you have not already. Just like I mentioned, I spent some time doing this, so I would appreciate that. And also, if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's at the DFS process. If you don't want to follow me, make sure you're following this guy at least, Dan Kurtz, who is going to be your go-to guy for KBO, as he is hopefully going to be the guy that tweets out the starting lineups. He did tweet out the starters for Tuesday, which is very, very helpful. And he also found his website through that, which is free, and it has a bunch of very useful stats, my KBO. So he's been really helpful in the research process, so shout out to him. So make sure you follow him over there. And I will be providing for the baseball members on the website, dfsprocess.net. So if you're looking to join, you can hit the link in the description or visit the website there. So his website is very helpful. If you just go to the homepage, you get the pitchers that are pitching for tomorrow. We're still waiting on one team starting pitcher, the Giants, but they were the worst team last season, so I don't really feel like I want to get a pitcher from that team. Maybe I'll look at some of the hitters because they're facing Despaigne, who if you remember, was in the big leagues last year, and he was absolutely awful. So not really looking to get a pitcher, so I don't think it's going to matter too much for this video from the Giants. But also, I plugged in the starting pitchers, the 7 that we have stats from. We don't have stats for Nick Kingham or Despaigne because they didn't pitch in KBO last season, but we can find their stats easily from Baseball Reference. So these are the 7 pitchers that pitched last season and their stats. Some of them were decent, some of them are pretty poor. So you can kind of look at and see which pitchers you want to target. Move my face up a little bit. So you can see which pitchers gave up some home runs, which are good at getting strikeouts. It's a very low strikeout league. KBO or Korean baseball is not a high strikeout sport or high strikeout league like MLB. So there's going to be a lot more contact, but there's also going to be less home runs. So you see, normally these would be pretty impressive home run per 9 ratios in that major league. So it's a little bit different, but that's the beauty of it. So looking at some of those stats and looking at the ERA and all those important stuff to figure out which teams I want to stack and which teams I don't want to stack and which pitchers I want to target. Just like regular baseball, I want to make sure I get my starting pitchers locked down because they are very important. If your pitchers tank, then you're pretty much done unless your hitters go off remarkably, but pretty much you're going to be done. So looking at the pitchers on the stats and looking at some of the schedules and some of the projected standings from 2019 and looking ahead to 2020, I went ahead and picked a couple of pitchers that I like the most. This final game, KIW versus KIA, features 2 of the best pitchers out of the 7 that pitched. So I'm expecting kind of a pitching duel in this one. I don't want to have any hitters really from this last game, so maybe I'll get a pitcher if you want to get a pitcher. But definitely don't want to get too many bats from the final game. We have plenty of bats to choose from some of these other games, so knocking that game off for the hitter side makes it a little bit easier to target, to navigate the slate. I am looking to stack DOO. They are going to be facing Yang, I believe. DOO is facing our Chan, so look at Chan's stats from last season. He gave up a decent amount of home runs and earned runs. ERA was one of the highest out of the 7 that are pitching. Had pretty few quality starts. And gave up a decent amount of walks as well. And decent strikeout stuff, but still it's a low strikeout sport. So I think DOO is looking like a pretty nice stack, as well as the Dinos. And it's also DOO is also projected to be one of the best teams in the league, so they have some good hitters on the team for sure. So DOO looks like a stack that I want. I also want the Dinos stack, and I think that you could look at like LOT just because they're facing Despaigne, who is just so bad. and he makes a stack pretty easy. And then I think SK also, we're still waiting, or for the Eagles, we do have the starting pitcher, Saffold, who was also all right. He wasn't great, wasn't poor. Decent ERA, but pretty poor strikeout stuff. So not probably my favorite stack on the slate, but definitely one that is viable. But the main ones I'm really looking at are these four. I think you can also stack the Wizards. Also look pretty nice, just because they have one of the best hitters, Rojas, one of the best hitters in the KBO. So those are like the four stacks that I'm most interested in based on the pitchers that they're going to be facing. We're still waiting on the Giants pitcher, which is why I'm a little bit not sure if I want to do a full stack of KTW, but they were the worst team last season, and their pitchers are pretty. They were hoping to get like Samson to start, but I think he had to be sent back to the States for some reason, or he had to travel back to the States. So we're still waiting on who they're going to start. And Dan Straley was expected to start too, but if that happens, then that's not going to make me nervous to stack KTW because we know how bad Dan Straley can be. But I don't think he's starting either. So I'll kind of just focus on some of these hitters. I think it's easier if you focus on the stacks that you want first, just because there's a lot of names and you can kind of drive yourself nuts going through each one, right? So that's the hitters that I want. For the pitchers, I will be looking at, like I said, the last game, you can kind of get one of those two if you want. If you want to go a little bit cheaper, I think from the Dinos, I do like them as a stack. It makes some sense there. Drew Niski at 9,100 looks fine. Facing a pretty poor team from last season. He was in the major leagues, so that's looking decent for him. And based on his stats last season, he was pretty good. ERA just above 3, decent strikeout stuff. Doesn't give up a ton of home runs either, so I think he looks pretty good. Also facing a team that was pretty bad last season too, so that looks fine for him. And then I would say that, um, 9,000 for Nick Kingham also looks nice, just because he does have major league experience. We know he can have some upside too, and usually if a pitcher is at least decent in the big leagues, they're gonna be fine in the KBO. It's a little bit less quality hitters, less power. So I think Kingham also looks good, just because the matchup is great for him facing the Eagles, who were the second worst team last season. So those are the pitchers I want, not breaking the bank, but still leaves me enough salary where I feel comfortable with the rest of my lineup potentially. So I will go ahead and give you guys like some hitters that I am looking at to target. Also, what I love about his website is that even though we don't have projected lineups or starting lineups yet, if we click on a team, like if I click on a team that I'm looking to stack, like the Wiz, click on a team, I can look at their preseason, see how they did in their last preseason games, and they have been doing pretty well. And you can kind of see the starting lineup that they had during those preseason games, which I would expect to be pretty similar to the regular season lineup. Obviously, they could throw a curveball in there, but that's kind of all we have to go off of right now. And if a guy's been starting every preseason, I would assume that he will continue to start during the regular season. So that's also very helpful. And then if you click on that, it also brings you to their stats from last season. So if I click on Sim here at shortstop, you can kind of see his stats from the last couple of years, which is also very helpful. Not a ton of power for this guy, but definitely has some speed. So that's also very nice feature of his website. Makes it easy to look at stats, because DraftKings hooked you up with absolutely nothing. They're making it difficult. You're going to have to put in some work to make a lineup. So that's just another way that you can utilize his website. But personally, we'll be looking at give you guys some spots that I like. At second base, Fernandez is going to be one of the best spots to target. Jose Fernandez, was a major leaguer, and he is just amazing hitter. We look at his stats from the last couple of years from the Bears. Just looking at 5-1. You can look at his 2019 stats from this. So Fernandez, last season in his first year, 344 batting average, 15 home runs, but definitely has some power. 483 slugging, and he is regarded as one of the best hitters in the KBO. So he looks like a nice option to target, especially with how good the DOO stack does appear on the slate. At third base, probably looking at one of the teams I mentioned. Anybody from these four teams, I will try to focus on. On baseball, on this site, on this sport too, I want to focus on stacking. Don't want to just get one-offs from every team. At shortstop, I love 2,900 for Sim. I just clicked on his name, but he's only 2,900. He looks very good and very appealing on this slate because I like the stack for his team, for the Wizards. And he's been leading off during the preseason, basically every game, so that's nice. Anytime you get a leadoff hitter at 2,900 at a shortstop position, that's always nice. He also has stolen base upside, as we've seen, so he looks very good and very appealing at his price point, just incredibly cheap with some speed, and hitting the top of the order just gives you more opportunities for at-bats, get some on base as well. So Sim at shortstop looks very, very nice. In the outfields, another guy from the Wiz that looks very appealing is Mel Rojas Jr. Going to do what I can to get Rojas Jr. and Fernandez in the lineup. Opening day, these guys are probably going to be a little bit pumped up, and they are the best hitters in the KBO, or two of the better hitters in the KBO. Especially Rojas has incredible amounts of power. 2019, 322 batting average, a 530 slugging, 24 home runs. In 2018, he hit 43 home runs. I believe he might have lost some time or similar number of at-bats. Maybe like lost a couple games there, but still showed plenty of power. Still has ability to get on base at a high clip, so not just a power hitter, and also strikes out a decent amount, but not an insane amount like you would expect for a guy like him. So Mel Rojas is also another guy that I am looking to target. It's gonna be down here, I believe, about the 3,000 range, just pretty cheap from the dinos, and that's Sung Bum Na at 3,000. Very surprising that he's this cheap. If we look at some of the preseason games, he's been right there in the second hole in the last game, batting number 2 overall. And last year he dealt with some injury, only played 23 games, but he's been one of the best hitters over the last couple of years, well over a 366. Well, he had a 366 batting average last year before he went down. The slugging the last couple of years over 518 in all 3 years. So he looks like a guy with power and a little bit of stolen base upside as well at a incredibly cheap price in a matchup that is very favorable for him and for the team. So definitely like Sung Bum Na here just because he's so cheap and allows you to pay up for a pitcher or two and allows you to pay out for Rojas and Fernandez. So that is the DraftKings picks that I am most comfortable and confident with right now. We will be touching on Fanduel as well as in this video, as they have some nice tournaments over there, and they're also their pricing and their lineup construction is completely different. You have one pitcher, you have 2 infield spots, 2 outfield spots, 2 util spots. So they make it pretty easy. You don't have to worry about what position a lot of these players play. But at pitcher, I'm looking at probably the Dinos pitcher. I like them to win. He's only $25. I don't have to worry about what his name is here, just whoever's pitching, the starting pitcher. But it's going to be the same guy that I had on DraftKings. So I feel good about him at $25. FanDuel also has some cheap options, like at infielder, a guy that is incredibly cheap is $12 is Eugenio Ji Yang, who is from the Dinos, one of the best catchers. Is definitely the best catcher in the Korean baseball, and he is incredibly affordable on Fanduel KBO. We look at he basically bats cleanup for the team. $12 for that for a guy that last season hit 20 bombs, 354 average. The year before that hit 358 with 23 bombs. These are not stuff that you expect out of a catcher. So definitely love his price tag over here on FanDuel for sure. Other guy that looks very appealing is probably Nah once again, who is just $7 on FanDuel. That is incredibly cheap. Mentioned his stats just recently over there on Draftkings. Don't know why he is incredibly cheap. But he is, and that makes it easy to get to. And then I feel good about going with Rojas and then going with Fernandez. So I analyze these guys more on the DraftKings side, so the same things apply here, but they are some of the best hitters in the KBO at decent prices, especially on FanDuel. But FanDuel really cheap pricing on some of these Dino hitters, and they are looking like a nice stack. So that is it for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Like I said, you can make sure you hit the like if you did. I appreciate that. And follow me on Twitter at the DFS Process, and check out the website if you want. And good luck on the opening day.